Imagine walking into your high school prom, excited for the night of your life, only to become the target of the most popular kids in school. They laugh at you, humiliate you in front of everyone, and think they can break your spirit. But what they don't know is that you're not just any girl. You're a champion boxer, with skills that could end their cruelty in seconds. This is the story of Jasmine Carter, and what happens next will blow your mind. Jasmine had just moved to Riverside High 2 months before prom. She came from a rough neighborhood across town, where she'd learned to fight not for glory but for survival. Her father owned a small boxing gym in their old neighborhood, and from the age of 8, Jasmine had been training relentlessly. By 16, she had won 3 regional championships and was being scouted for national competitions. But when her father got a better job opportunity, they moved to the affluent side of town, and Jasmine found herself in a completely different world. A world where she didn't fit in. Riverside High was the kind of school where wealth and status meant everything. Designer clothes, expensive cars, and the right last name determined your social ranking. Jasmine, with her thrift store dresses and quiet demeanor, was immediately labeled as an outsider. She kept her boxing career private, preferring to focus on her studies and staying under the radar. She had no interest in the superficial drama that consumed most of her classmates. But there was one group that seemed determined to make her life miserable. The popular clique led by Madison Reynolds, the self-proclaimed queen of Riverside High, and her cruel boyfriend, Brad Cooper. Madison was everything Jasmine wasn't. She was wealthy, blonde, perfectly polished, and used to getting everything she wanted. Brad was the star quarterback, arrogant and entitled, with a mean streak he disguised as humor. Together, they ruled the school through intimidation and mockery. From Jasmine's first day, Madison had made it clear she didn't belong. She would make loud comments about Jasmine's clothes in the hallway, knock her books out of her hands, and spread rumors about her being poor and desperate. Brad would join in, making racist jokes that his friends laughed at while teachers conveniently looked away. Jasmine endured it all with quiet strength. She'd faced worse in her old neighborhood, and she knew that fighting back would only make things harder. Her father had always taught her that boxing was for the ring, not for settling petty disputes. "Your fists are weapons now," he'd told her. "You use them responsibly or not at all." So Jasmine kept her head down, channeled her anger into her training, and counted down the weeks until graduation, when she could leave this toxic place behind forever. Then came prom season. Jasmine hadn't planned on going. She had no date, no friends at this school, and no desire to spend money on a dress just to be humiliated. But her father encouraged her to go. "You deserve to have normal teenage experiences," he said gently. "Don't let anyone steal your joy." Reluctantly, Jasmine agreed. She saved money from her part-time job and found a beautiful emerald green dress at a consignment shop. It wasn't designer, but it was elegant and made her feel beautiful. For one night, she decided, she would try to enjoy herself despite everything. The night of prom, Jasmine walked into the hotel ballroom alone, but with her head held high. The venue was decorated with twinkling lights and elegant decorations. Music filled the air and students laughed and danced everywhere. For a brief moment, Jasmine let herself relax and smile. Maybe this wouldn't be so bad. Maybe she could just blend in and enjoy the music. But that hope shattered the moment Madison spotted her. Madison's eyes narrowed with malicious glee, and she whispered something to Brad and their friends. They all turned to look at Jasmine, and cruel smiles spread across their faces. Word count 108. Madison strutted over, her expensive designer gown shimmering under the lights, with Brad and their entire clique following behind her like a pack of hyenas. "Well, well, well," Madison said loudly, making sure everyone nearby could hear. "Look who actually showed up. I'm surprised they let you in, Jasmine. Did you sneak in through the service entrance?" Her friends erupted in laughter. Jasmine felt every eye in the room turn toward her, but she kept her expression neutral. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing her hurt. "I bought a ticket like everyone else," Jasmine replied calmly, trying to move past them toward the refreshment table. But Brad stepped in front of her, blocking her path. "That dress is tragic," he said with mock concern, looking her up and down with disgust. "What is that, from Goodwill?" "My mom donates better clothes than that to charity." More laughter erupted around them. Madison circled Jasmine like a predator, her voice dripping with false sweetness. Honey, this is Riverside High Prom, not a homeless shelter fundraiser. You're embarrassing yourself. Actually, you're embarrassing all of us just by being here. Why don't you do everyone a favor and leave? Go back to whatever ghetto you crawled out of. The words hit like physical blows, and Jasmine felt her hands begin to tremble. Other students had formed a circle around them now, phones out and recording. Some looked uncomfortable but said nothing. Others were openly laughing and encouraging Madison and Brad. The DJ had lowered the music, and the entire ballroom seemed focused on this cruel spectacle. Jasmine's heart pounded in her chest. Her boxing instincts screamed at her to fight back, to show them exactly what she was capable of. Her fists clenched at her sides. She could end this humiliation in seconds. One punch, maybe two, and Brad would be on the floor. Madison wouldn't be smiling anymore. But her father's voice echoed in her mind. "You're pathetic," Madison continued, emboldened by the crowd's reaction. "Look at everyone laughing at you. You actually thought you could come here and fit in with us? You're nothing. You'll always be nothing. A poor ugly nobody from the wrong side of town, who doesn't belong anywhere near people like us." She reached out and shoved Jasmine's shoulder hard. That was the moment. That physical contact. Jasmine's eyes flashed with something dangerous, something that made Madison take an involuntary step back. But Jasmine still held herself back. Not here. Not like this. Brad, seeing Madison's momentary hesitation, decided to escalate things. "You know what? I bet she can't even dance. Poor people don't know how to do anything classy. Hey everyone, let's see the charity case try to dance." He grabbed Jasmine's arm roughly, trying to pull her toward the dance floor to humiliate her further. That was his mistake. The moment his hand closed around her arm with aggressive force, something shifted in Jasmine. She'd endured the verbal abuse. She'd swallowed her pride. But physical assault? That crossed a line. In one fluid motion, Jasmine twisted her arm free using a technique she'd practiced thousands of times. Brad stumbled forward, caught off balance by the unexpected move. Before he could recover, Jasmine's instincts took over. She didn't throw a punch, but she did something equally effective. She swept his legs out from under him with a perfectly executed trip that sent him crashing hard onto the polished floor. The sound of his body hitting the ground echoed through the now silent ballroom. Brad lay there, stunned and humiliated, his expensive tuxedo rumpled and his dignity shattered. The crowd gasped collectively. Nobody had ever seen Brad Cooper brought down like that. Madison shrieked in outrage. "You psycho! You attacked him! Someone call security!" But before anyone could move, one voice cut through the chaos. "Stop!" Everyone turned to see Mr. Chen, the school's athletics director, pushing through the crowd. He'd been chaperoning the prom and had witnessed everything. "Madison, Brad, that's enough. I saw what happened." Brad grabbed her first. Jasmine defended herself. He turned to Jasmine with recognition dawning in his eyes. "Wait a minute. Jasmine Carter. Are you related to Marcus Carter, who runs Carter's boxing gym downtown?" Jasmine nodded slowly, her heart still racing. "He's my father." Mr. Chen's face broke into a huge smile. "I knew it. I've been following your career. You're the junior champion who won the regional title last year. The Riverside Phantom, they call you in the boxing circuit, right?" The crowd's mood shifted instantly. Whispers spread through the ballroom like wildfire. Jasmine Carter wasn't just some poor girl from across town. She was a legitimate boxing champion. Brad struggled to his feet, his face red with embarrassment and anger, suddenly looking much less confident. "You're a boxer?" Madison's voice had lost all its venom, replaced by uncertainty and fear. The reality of who she'd been bullying was sinking in. Jasmine could have seriously hurt any of them at any moment. Mr. Chen nodded enthusiastically, completely oblivious to the tension. "She's not just a boxer. She's one of the best young fighters in the state." "Jasmine, I had no idea you'd transferred to our school. I've been trying to start a boxing club here. Would you be interested in helping? Maybe giving some demonstrations?" He was genuinely excited, treating Jasmine with the respect she deserved. The students who had been laughing minutes ago now looked at Jasmine with a mixture of awe, fear, and newfound respect. Madison backed away slowly, realizing how close she'd come to provoking someone who could have legitimately knocked her out. Brad clutched his bruised ego and soared back, unable to meet anyone's eyes. The phones that had been recording their bullying now captured their humiliation instead. Jasmine took a deep breath, her anger slowly dissipating. She looked at Madison and Brad not with hatred, but with something closer to pity. They were so small, so insecure, that they could only feel powerful by tearing others down. "I don't want any trouble," Jasmine said quietly, her voice steady and strong. "I came here to have a nice evening, not to fight anyone. But let me make something very clear to all of you." She looked around at the crowd, making sure everyone heard her. "I've spent my whole life fighting. Real fighting, not this petty high school drama. I've trained since I was 8 years old. I've broken ribs, dislocated shoulders, and knocked out opponents twice my size. I could have hurt any of you tonight. But I didn't, because that's not who I am." She turned specifically to Madison and Brad. "You judged me based on my clothes, my background, where I come from. You thought those things made me weak, made me less than you. But real strength isn't about money or status or designer labels. It's about character. It's about how you treat people when you have power over them. And both of you failed that test completely. I may not have your wealth, but I have something far more valuable. I have dignity, discipline, and the strength that comes from earning respect, not demanding it because of who your parents are." The silence in the ballroom was deafening. Several students who'd been recording now looked ashamed and put their phones away. Mr. Chen smiled proudly at Jasmine, recognizing the maturity and wisdom in her words. Madison's eyes filled with tears, not from injury but from the crushing weight of her own behavior being exposed. Brad just stood there, unable to formulate any response, his carefully constructed image of superiority crumbling around him. The other students in Madison and Brad's clique quietly distanced themselves, suddenly not wanting to be associated with what had just happened. Some even looked at Jasmine with apologetic expressions, though none had the courage to voice it. Principal Hayes, who had been informed of the commotion, arrived at that moment. After getting a quick rundown of events from Mr. Chen and several honest students, she made a decision. "Madison Reynolds, Brad Cooper, you're both suspended from the prom effective immediately. Your parents will be called tonight, and we'll be having a serious discussion about bullying and harassment on Monday morning. Please collect your belongings and leave." Madison gasped in shock. Being kicked out of prom was social suicide at Riverside High. Brad looked like he might argue, but one look at the principal's stern face made him think better of it. As they gathered their things and left in disgrace, the prom slowly returned to normal. But everything had changed. Students approached Jasmine throughout the night, some apologizing for their silence during the bullying, others genuinely interested in learning about her boxing career. A few girls who had also been targets of Madison's cruelty thanked her for standing up in a way they never could. By the end of the evening, Jasmine found herself surrounded by people who saw her for who she truly was, strong, talented, and remarkable. She even danced, finally able to enjoy the night she'd almost given up on. The next week at school was completely different. The video of Brad being swept to the floor and Jasmine's powerful speech went viral on social media. Overnight, Jasmine became something of a legend at Riverside High. Madison and Brad returned from their suspension noticeably quieter, their reign of terror permanently ended. Madison even approached Jasmine in the hallway one day, her usual confidence completely gone. "I'm sorry," she said quietly, unable to meet Jasmine's eyes. "I was terrible to you. I was terrible to a lot of people. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I needed to say it." Jasmine studied her for a moment before nodding. "I appreciate that," Jasmine replied. "Maybe use this experience to become a better person. You have influence here. You could use it to build people up instead of tearing them down." Madison nodded, tears streaming down her face, and walked away. Whether she would actually change remained to be seen, but at least she'd been forced to confront her cruelty. Mr. Chen did start that boxing club, with Jasmine as the student instructor. Within a month, 30 students had signed up, eager to learn from the quiet champion who had been. Hiding in plain sight among them, Jasmine's father came to one of the club demonstrations and watched with pride as his daughter taught her classmates basic techniques and, more importantly, the discipline and respect that came with martial arts. "You handled that prom situation perfectly," he told her afterward. "You showed them your strength without losing your integrity. That's the mark of a true champion, both in the ring and in life." Jasmine smiled. She'd learned that real victory wasn't about knocking people down. It was about standing up for yourself with dignity, using your power wisely, and never letting anyone make you feel less than you are. By the time graduation came around, Jasmine had transformed Riverside High's culture. Bullying incidents dropped dramatically, partly because students knew there was someone who wouldn't tolerate it, and partly because Jasmine's example inspired others to be kinder and braver. She gave a speech at graduation about strength and compassion, about how true power comes from lifting others up, not pushing them down. Madison and Brad were in the audience, both noticeably changed by the experience. Whether they remained changed was up to them. But Jasmine had planted the seeds of transformation. Jasmine went on to win the national championship that summer and earned a full scholarship to a prestigious university, where she could continue both her boxing career and her education, but she never forgot the lessons of that prom night. That kindness is not weakness. That silence in the face of cruelty makes you complicit. And that standing up for yourself with dignity and strength is more powerful than any punch you could throw. She had been underestimated, humiliated, and dismissed, but she had risen above it all, proving that true champions are made not just in the ring, but in how they handle life's most difficult moments. This story reminds us that you never really know what someone is capable of. The quiet person you dismiss might be extraordinary in ways you can't imagine. The person you bully might possess strength that dwarfs your own. More importantly, it shows us that real power isn't about dominating others or using your advantages to hurt people. Real power is restraint, dignity, and the wisdom to know when to fight and when to walk away with your head held high. Jasmine chose kindness and strength, and in doing so, she changed not just her own life but the lives of everyone around her.